What's up, guys? It's your boy Justin, back with another book review. Today we're reviewing the first book in the Vampire Hunter D series, and also in the Vampire Hunter D Omnibus. This is the Omnibus Book 1, which is written by Hideyuki Kikuchi, with art by Yoshiyuki Amano. Which if you're a fan of Japanese anime, you probably know who Yoshiyuki Amano is. Even though he hasn't done like a lot of anime work, he's most famous for doing the illustrations, not just for the Vampire Hunter D books, but he also did the illustrations for a lot of the Final Fantasy games, and he did a lot of the character designs for a lot of Tatsunoko's production superheroes, like Gatchaman, Tekka Man. I don't know if he did Polymar, but yeah, he did a lot of those. So yeah, today we're reviewing the first book in the Vampire Hunter D series, which I read in this omnibus, which is just called Vampire Hunter D. It came out in 1983, was first published by Dark Horse in 2005, which is funny because it's like, wow, that's weird that it wasn't translated into English until 2005, because you already had like two movies that was brought over to the West by like 2000, like by 2001. You had, like in the 90s, I'm pretty sure somebody brought over the first Vampire Hunter D movie, which came out in, I think, 85, which adapted the first book. And in 2001, Yoshiyuki Kawajiri, the director of Ninja Scroll and Wicked City, did Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. So, and there was also a PlayStation 1 game that was a Vampire Hunter D PlayStation 1 game that was brought over to the West by the 2000, like early 2000s. So like, wow, it's crazy that it wasn't until 2005 that this book was translated in the West, right? For people who watched the first movie and wondering, is this book still worth reading? The answer is yes, because there's a section in the book where they explain the backstory behind this crazy setting, which I forgot to mention. I'll go back to what I was saying, but like there's homage to. Sorry, he gave special thanks to like all the actors from Horror of Dracula, which was Hammer Films' remake of the first Dracula film, or adaptation of the book, whatever, right? But yeah, like in this book, we finally get an explanation behind the crazy setting of like Vampire Hunter D, which I didn't know until I read like the Grey Lancer book, which Grey Lancer is like a prequel to Vampire Hunter D. So the setting for Vampire Hunter D, and this is crazy because if you watch the movies, it's like a hodgepodge mix of dark fantasy, cyberpunk, and western, right? And horror, obviously. But in the book, we finally get an explanation. In the first book, they give you an explanation for the setting, which is, and it very much reminded me of Shannara Chronicles, right? Basically, humanity had a nuclear holocaust where humanity was basically almost wiped out, and only pockets of humanity survived. And in the post-war nuclear apocalypse, they lost all their technology, and it basically became the Middle Ages. And then the vampires show up, and the vampires were hiding for like thousands of years, show up and rule humanity as the nobility. They become the ruling class, and they while they were hiding away from humanity, they had they had crazy amounts of, they were able to preserve technology, right? And they even had like something the book refers to as super science, where they were using their technological prowess. They create like starships, like faster than speed of sound, like monotrails or whatever, monorails, to transport people in the blink of an eye across the land. And they also, to be like, I guess they were being dicks. They thought it would be funny. Hey, let's using genetic engineering, bring back all the weird monsters from humanity's legends and set them free into the land. Right? Uh, eventually, eventually, humanity got sick of the fucking nobles and their bullshit, and wiped out, slowly and surely had uprising where they took, brought vampires to the brink of extinction, right? And that's where we are now, where we're in like the twilight years of the vampires, right? But humanity took over, but humanity couldn't, didn't know how to keep shit working. So a lot of the events tech that the vampires had, spaceships, space stations, automated, the automated cities, that all went to disrepair, right? So that, and even though vampires are rare, they're you still have vampire lords living in castles, but they keep to themselves. But once in a while, they go out and go out and fuck around with with people some more. So this book is about Doris, who was daughter of a werewolf hunter, right? They have hunters in this book that are basically just like the hunters from Hunter x Hunter, right? Basically mercenaries that specialize in certain trades, right? Usually in the monster extermination trade. Right. So Doris is the daughter of a werewolf hunter, and she was bitten by the local vampire lord, Count Magnus Lee, who is exactly 3,757 years old, who lives in a castle with his daughter, who is exactly 3,727 years old. Only 30-year difference. What the fuck? Hideyuki. And their, werewolf chauffeur, right, called Garo, which is very clever name for a werewolf. For people who don't know, Garo is Japanese for wolf. For wolf. And she gets bitten by a vampire, right? And usually, vampires will bite someone, leave them alive, only to come back and bite them night after night until they eventually turn into a vampire, or they die, right? So she's being preyed by a vampire, right? So her plan was to start fights with random drifters until she found one that could beat her, right? And then offer them a job to hunt down and kill the vampire. So she attacks D with a whip that's made from werewolf hair, and Dee beats her, and immediately she's like, I offers him a job and promises like her body, right? So we have illustrations by Yoshiyuki Amano. Keep in mind this girl's like 17, so like Hideyuki Kikuchi creeping underage girls yet again, just like in Demon City Shinjuku, which we also reviewed on this channel. So D is described in the book as a 17 or 18-year-old youth who doesn't wear a black cape but wears like a black overcoat, and he doesn't talk like he does in the movies, which bothered me, man. Because in the books he's very stoic, and in the movies he's very stoic and serious, right? Here he's like that, but also he says stuff that are pretty much don't fit his character, or at least his character from the movies, right? So that's so it's like, yeah, damn, that really bothered me, that how like different Vampire Hunter D is from the movies to the books. In the book, he's kind of young, and he's more cocksure, right? So yeah, he goes to the Dorse's farm, meets the 8-year-old Dan, who doesn't talk like an 8-year-old at all. But I guess we can explain that away with, well, like Doris and Dan have been fending off for themselves for the last few years, because their dad died, and they don't even mention their mom, right? And yeah, Vampire Hunter D goes to live with them, and not only does he have to deal with the vampire Lord Lee and his daughter and werewolf, but he also has to deal with a gang of bandit mutants, right? And the mayor's son, who has a thing for Doris, right? Right? So, okay, I don't want to spoil the whole book, right? Which this first book was only like 237 pages and has a abrupt ending. I guess at this point, like, Hideyuki Kuchiki was going through his light novel book phase, right? But yeah, like, the book has a good pace. The dialogue, though, is not the greatest. It's not the greatest, but like he did a good job of painting the world. We get lots of backstory. The world building in this book is really good, and like, you know, he fleshes out, right, with setting up, like, okay, what kind of like all the different kinds of beasts and animals, like some of which are actually supernatural, while others were like fake supernatural beings created by the nobility, which is the vampires, right? Like some werewolves are real, some werewolves are fake. They have this creature called the Night Cloud, which very much reminded me from the thing from the latest Jordan Peele movie, Nope, which I still like that movie, by the way. That movie's probably going to be in my top 10 movies of this year, mostly because a lot of the horror movies suck this year. Yeah, sorry to go on a random tangent. But yeah, they explain away. Okay, how are vampires so fucking tough to kill when you have people in the book have access to bazookas, laser guns, like high frequency swords and shit. How are vampires so hard to kill? Oh, they're rich, and are able to afford automatic laser cannons in their castles, and the vampire lord himself carries a fucking force field, right? And and it's like the complete opposite of the force fields from Dune, where the force fields in Dunes are very good at stopping bullets, and like, you know, slowing down like physical weapons, right? But they can't handle laser guns too well. They get hit by a laser gun and they fucking causes a atomic bomb reaction. Here, it's like, oh, the force shields are very good against, very good against like laser guns and stuff like that. Not so good with physical weapons, but you know, usually the vampires, you know, like super abilities, you know, super strength and super reaction, you know, shit is able to, like, you know, knock this stuff away. Knock the projectiles out of the way, right? So yeah, the book has some really cool fights, some really cool characters, right? Like the mutant, people probably remember the mutant character, like Ray Ginsei from the movie, right? The guy with the white hair who threw like the curved blades. He was actually a bandit leader in the book, who ran like a mutant gang of bandits, right? Each of which had their own like unique like superpower. You had Golem, who was like the man of bronze, where he had like impervious like skin, right? You had like Gimlet, who had like superhuman speed. You had like the other guy, I forget his name, who was a hunchback who can summon like shoot out like poisonous spiders out of his hump, and there was also a witch that could summon like a supernatural wraith. Like, there was a lot of shit in this book that reminded me of stuff from the Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust film, which made me wonder like how much of the Bloodlust film is actually based off Demon Death Chase and not stuff that was in the first book that wasn't put in the first movie, right? Because in Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, you had like a group of hunters, where here the bandits LARPed as a group of hunters. You had like a person that could summon an invincible wraith. That was the witch in this book. That was, you know, Bloodlust had that, and also the vampire lord, Count Magnus. He was able to turn his cape into like wings, and he would also use his cape as like a blade to strike at like D, just like the vampire in Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, right? Which Vampire D Bloodlust was supposed to be based off Demon Death Chase, right? So I'm more than ever I want to read like Vampire Hunter D Demon Death Chase, right? But yeah, like I like this book. My only problem with the book, honestly, is the dialogue was bad, but overall everything else was good. And I really like that, you know, like a lot of books try to be dark fantasy, but don't really describe the world with a dark fantasy aesthetic, right? But here they were able to do that, you know, which is not easy to do using words, but they were able to paint the world with a dark fantasy aesthetic that I fucking love, man. And this book is awesome. I'm giving it 7 out of 10. A bit short. The dialogue wasn't great, but it's a fun read, man. Right? And the first book is out of print, but you can get the omnibus that has the first 3 books. We'll review Riser of Gales and Demon Death Chase in another video, right? But yeah, so like that's the end of this review. Next week we're gonna review the Wishsong of Shannara. by Terry Brooks. We were going to review this another day, right? But like, I'm trying to switch between dark fantasy and heroic fantasy, and most of the books, not realizing most of my books that I bought are dark fantasy. So I'm like, oh fuck. So I'm going to have to review this. Right. So yeah. So that's it